fell amidst hundreds of protesters for and against convicted serial killer Jason Blackwell. His execution appears to be on schedule, and he will be transferred tomorrow at 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. I say appears because it looks like the recent argument posed to the Supreme Court by lawyers representing two Kentucky inmates whose firm stand is that this form of execution can cause pain and suffering, thus violating the Eighth Amendment, which prohibits cruel and unusual punishment, will not be a factor in Jason's case. On a side note, Governor Schwarzenegger, a staunch proponent of the death penalty, has denied the last request by Jason's counsel for their client to receive a stay of execution. This is Nicole Craven, CNN News in Los Angeles.
For the record, when did you become interested in killing?
I was 6 years old. I remember sitting on the porch with my magnifying glass. A present from my stepdad. He thought I'd grow up to be a scientist. Angling it just right so that the light would shine on the ant I was stalking. I remember the sizzle and the way they'd squirm. Then a pop and it would explode. Later I'd catch bugs and spiders and pin them to the wall and watch them die. Slowly. Oh, the control. The power. It was my world and I was God.
And it didn't stop there, did it?
Eventually you get bored of the little things. My first real kill was my sister Annie's cat. You know how aloof cats can be. The fucking animal hated me, so I taught it a lesson. And my sister, for that matter. Always calling me freak. I strangled it with my bare hands. Then hung its head from a hook above her bed so that she could see it first thing in the morning when she woke up. They sent me off to a shrink after that.
And then?
I was smarter than him. 2 months later, he sent me off home with the boys would just be boys speech to my parents. So I kept things quiet for a while. Snakes, rats, birds, well, any small animal I could get my hands on, in fact.
Small animals because they couldn't fight back?
There's a great sense of power watching something die. Staring into its eyes as it draws its last breath. It's almost pleasurable.
And what about her? She wasn't a bird or a rat. She was a person.
Justine. She was soft. Hair like chocolate milk that ran down her back, with bright emerald eyes, like Annie's cat. I tried talking to her. I even wrote her a letter telling her how I felt. But she just ignored me. Ignored me. Then I overheard her telling a friend she thought I was a freak. That word again. No one was supposed to use that. Especially not her. Would you like some water?
I'm fine. Continue.
She worked at the coffee shop in the center of town. I knew that she was working that night and that she would lock up. I'd seen her do it before. I watched her as she locked the doors, then grabbed her from behind and stuffed a tissue soaked in chloroform over her face. She sagged into my arms and I put her in the car. We drove back to my place and I carried her in. She looked so beautiful lying in my bed. I stripped her naked, then tied her to the bedpost and spent the night watching her sleep. The next morning when she woke up, silly bitch started screaming, so I had to stick her panties in her mouth. I tried telling her how beautiful she was, but she just kept crying and struggling. We made love for the next few days, and she pretended to struggle. She cried often. I guess she must have been moved by it. On the last night, she bit me while we were making love. I took her panties out of her mouth and wrapped them around her neck. I stared into her eyes as she drew her last breath. The pleasure. The power. The release. You know why I chose you. You were Justine's friend. You were on the phone that night, weren't you? Do you miss her? Do you miss your girlfriend?
You're gonna be executed tomorrow. I hope you have a really nice trip. Freak.